Sports of the 20th Century.
I think it's important to say that it never happened before, and it hadn't happened since, and probably never will happen again. Not in our lifetime. I mean, those three people at the same place in the biggest tournament there is, coming together like that, Hogan, Palmer, Nicklaus, was incredible.
In 1960, a handsome young senator full of confidence and the promise of change was daring to seek the highest office in the land.
This is the beginning of a great new day.
In his vision for the country, everything was possible and everyone belonged. And if his rise to the presidency seemed improbable, it was a year when a wondrous changing of the guard occurred in sports, on the back nine of the U.S. Open Golf Championship. A Saturday afternoon at Cherry Hills in Colorado brought together three men who'd taken very different paths to that time and place. The youngest of them had been raised knowing that he belonged. The most popular of them had been raised to prove that he belonged. And the oldest of them, who had come the farthest and won the most, had raised himself out of the dirt of a small town called Dublin, Texas.
Little Benny Hogan, he was a character from Dickens, a Dickens novel. I think he probably, at least early in his life, never realized how poor he was.
Ben was an introspective, introverted kind of kid. He was inclined to be a loner, and I think he came out of the womb that way.
The youngest of three children, Ben was happiest in the company of his father, Chester, a troubled man whose dark moods were hidden beneath a quiet, polite disposition.
Hogan's father was his hero. He was a stoic, probably in his own way, manic depressed figure who had the ill fortune to be a blacksmith at a time when the automobile hit. So he was really up against it.
I believe he was pretty well liked in town, from what I can understand. But then he was gone.
As lean times and mood swings continued for Chester Hogan, his wife Clara relocated the family to nearby Fort Worth to seek employment of her own. Chester Hogan was not happy about the move. Feeling displaced and deeply depressed, he drew a gun and shot himself in the small family home. He died a day later. It was widely reported that little Benny had witnessed the shooting.
That experience of having his father, his hero, taken from him shaped everything in his life to the end of his days.
He took that sorrow and used it as determination and drive to succeed.
Well, I was selling newspapers at the time, and I found out they had a golf course about 7 miles from my house, and they paid 65 cents for 18 holes for a caddy.
Though small and lacking any knowledge of golf, Hogan earned a spot in the caddy yard of the local Glen Garden Country Club, home of an engaging young caddy named Byron Nelson. Ben was consumed by the sport he'd found.
It became his way of getting out of the poverty that he was growing up in after Chester shot himself.
Hogan spent every possible hour on the golf course, often sleeping in sand traps to save a long journey home at night. His passion was noticed by one of the businessmen he caddied for, named Marvin Leonard.
You know, people ask me often, what was the relationship with my father? And because it could have been father and son, it could be good friend, and it was all of that, I think. He was a mentor to him in a lot of ways.
It didn't hurt anything that Marvin was a golf lover, and he saw some potential in Ben.
Eventually, Leonard offered the teenage Hogan money to pursue his dream, to become a golf pro and hit the road.
As Hogan was pursuing his dream, America was experiencing a nightmare.
In the 1920s, the great American word was prosperity. Now the 30s have begun and there is a new word, depression.
For many, the American dream was merely to survive. For the resolute Ben Hogan, golf still held more promise than anything back home. He set out on the professional winter circuit.
I was a terrible player. I was always last. I wasn't in the money, and I was broke. I had to come home.
He was a vagabond, a Dust Bowl loser with his thumb jerked out.
One of the biggest obstacles between Hogan and golf glory was a heavy hook, which continued to undermine his efforts.
He spent all this time pounding balls till his hands bled. That practice tee is where he worked out his various demons, the demons in the golf courses and the demons that followed him through life.
Hoping his hard work would pay off, Hogan and his wife of 3 years, Valerie, used their life savings and headed to California in 1938 to give the professional circuit one last try.
We had $86 left out of the $1,400. So she said, well, what are we going to do? And I said, Valerie, we made a deal to spend $1,400, and we're going to Oakland.
He told Valerie when he ran out of money they would go back home, and he was going to go out to play, and he went out to his car and all 4 tires were stolen off it.
My 2 rear wheels are sitting on rocks, and they'd even taken the jack.
Desperate for a good result, Hogan hitched a ride to the tournament, then summoned the calm needed to play well and finish in the money.
And I won $385. It's the biggest check I've ever seen in my life. And I'm quite sure it'll be the biggest check I'll ever see.
Hogan now had the momentum he needed. In March of 1940, after years of struggle and disappointment, he arrived at Pinehurst in North Carolina and won his first individual professional tournament. From there, he never looked back.
He spent, 15, 20 years battling himself to finally learn how to win.
2 decades later, in the hills of Colorado, Hogan's battle for the U.S. Open crown would reach a dramatic conclusion. The country was lifting itself out of the Depression, and in the small industrial town of Latrobe, Pennsylvania, a laborer named Deacon Palmer carved out a living as a groundskeeper at the local country club. His young son, Arnold, was never far from his side.
I loved hanging out with my father. When I was able to walk, I went with my father to the golf course. When he put a golf club in my hand the first time, he said, now boy, don't you ever change what I have just done with your hands on that golf club. Hit it as hard as you want to, go find it and hit it again. One day, a lady had trouble hitting the ball over a ditch. She said, Arnie, hit my ball across that ditch, I'll give you a nickel. Well, man, you can't believe how fast I got up there and took her driver and whipped it across that ditch, and that started my enterprising.
He had a pretty easy life for a blue-collar kid, but he definitely was a blue-collar kid.
Although the Palmer family lived just off the golf course, Deke Palmer held rigidly to his status as employee only at the club, and he made certain that his children followed his code.
He was totally dedicated to the Latrobe Country Club.
I was taught as a young boy that I was not a member of the club. I accepted it. Did I resent it? Sure, I wanted to go swim in the pool with all the other kids, but I didn't. I swam in the stream by the edge of the golf course with my sister and some of our other friends, with the snakes.
I think still, Arnie looks back to Daddy and the things that he impressed upon him.
My father was the dominant factor in the family, and at the same time, caring. I was his first child, so I took the brunt of some of his toughness.
You didn't fool around. No one, not even think of fooling around.
Daddy wanted his boy to grow up to be a man.
At 16, Arnold felt the need to challenge his father's unbending authority.
Deacon would go and play poker with the guys, and when he was drinking, he was very short-tempered. And one night, he was picking, as Arnold described it, at his mother.
My father was picking on my mother, and I said, "You can't do that to her and talk to her that way." And before I knew it, he had picked me up off my feet,
Tossed him into the wall and flattened a stovepipe against the wall.
I was upstairs in my bedroom. I hid because I didn't want Arnie to be hurt. And Daddy laughed at him, which made it even worse on Arnie.
I ran away. Yeah, I didn't run very far. It got dark, and I went back home.
While Deke Palmer kept his son humble at home, the easygoing boy's talents on the golf course only grew, and so did his popularity.
I never had an identity when I was in high school. I looked through my yearbooks a couple of times. Now they autograph yearbooks, and it was always to Arnie's sister.
He was this athletic kid that played on the football team and the baseball team, and he chose golf for one simple reason. He lived to show off. If Hogan played golf to survive, Arnold played golf to show off.
One of the game's biggest show-offs was Babe Didrikson Zaharias, who came to Latrobe to play in an exhibition. Arnold, now one of the best junior golfers in the state, received a first-hand lesson in charisma.
When she walked up on the first tee and the gallery was there, and she sort of wiggled herself a little bit, and she said, "Yeah, I gotta loosen my girdle and let this thing fly." You know, it just made me want to perform.
Arnold began competing against some of the finest players in the country when he met 1947 U.S. Open champion Lou Worsham. But it was Lou's younger brother, Buddy, who changed Palmer's life when he helped him get a scholarship to play golf in North Carolina.
Bud and I headed off to Wake Forest, one of the greatest moves I ever made, and I could never thank Bud enough.
I dated Bubby. His family called him Bubby. I don't think Arnie's, maybe he does have a good friend, but as far as I'm concerned, his best friend ever was Bubby.
And when Arnold first went to Wake Forest, he entered a new world where he was able to have a life playing golf, essentially.
I took great pride in proving to my father that I could beat everyone around, and that was part of the mystique that kept me excited about the game of golf.
In 1960, Palmer would look to prove that he could beat everyone for the game's toughest prize. In the middle of the 20th century, in the middle of a booming America, a sports-loving 10-year-old boy in Ohio was striking a golf ball for the first time.
My first lesson was no different than most of the other kids. There was about 50 of us in a junior class on Friday morning, and I hit the golf ball just like the rest of them.
Jack came from a very affluent neighborhood in Ohio, in Columbus. Father was well-to-do and gave him a lot of opportunities.
Jack's father, Charlie Nicklaus, was a genial, free-spirited man who owned a number of pharmacies in Columbus. An accomplished athlete in his own right, Charlie eagerly supported his son's growing interest in sports.
Well, my dad was my best friend, and we did everything together. We would go out in the backyard and throw the baseball, shoot baskets, kick a football.
I don't think Jack had to earn this acceptance that every kid craves from his father. Charlie was just a full-figured man with a great touch with people that helped him turn his pharmacy into another one and allow membership at this great club called Scioto, which is right across the street from the Nicklaus house.
He was trying to rehab the broken ankle that he'd had, and he was just walking around the golf course. One day he's taking his son Jackie with him.
And I just start chipping and putting and fooling around, and I had no idea what I was doing. And he finally just asked me, he said, would you like to take some lessons? Just so happened that was the year that Jack Grout came to Columbus.
Grout was a working class guy who played on the early tour and had some success. And by the time Grout was a club pro, the teachers were actually entering the game.
After about 2 lessons, so he'd say, Jackie boy, he says, come out here and show these guys how to take a divot. Show them how to take a sand shot. Well, anyway, he started making me part of his class, which obviously boosts any kid's ego.
And Grout called me at the paper, and he says, one of these little lads, he says, shot a 51 on the front 9 his first time out. He's 10 years old. And I said, who's that? He says, well, it's little Jack Nicklaus. And I said, you're kidding me. I'm going to give up this game. Shoots a 51 his first time out. And I didn't know Jack Nicklaus from a jar of Vicks. He got so good that when he became 12, he pushed himself into the 13 age group. In other words, he was dominating. By the time he was 16, he won the Ohio Open. And I mean, that was phenomenal. And he's out driving all the big hot shots in Columbus.
I was in Columbus, and a man came up to me and he said, I got somebody I want you to meet, my son. I said, okay. So we go out there at South and here to see him hitting golf balls, and he just knocked them a ton. And we got up there and he shot 72. I don't know what I shot, but anyway, I turned around to Charlie and I said, well, don't ever get me this trap again.
He devoted himself. He practiced. I never saw a guy quite so focused at that age.
He was a country club kid. That made you something very different than a kid who'd grown up like Hogan or even Palmer, who'd worked their way into the game through the back door. You came in through the front door. That's the difference of the game from about 1950 on.
In years to come at Cherry Hills, Nicklaus would impress golf's greatest players with his precise and powerful game.
Now comes Mr. Ben Hogan. And this is the putt right here.
In June of 1950, a gritty survivor from small-town Texas was adding layers to his legend.
He's got it. There he is. Ben's the new golf champion.
A legend almost no one could have imagined. Years earlier, the end of World War II brought great optimism to America. Ben Hogan, who had served in the Air Corps, could once again wage his own battle for respect on the golf course. Facing down his old caddy mate Byron Nelson and a smooth-swinging West Virginian named Sam Snead, the 40s brought Hogan the game's biggest prizes.
In golf, Ben Hogan was Man of the Year. In prize money and in titles, the little Texas pro led them all.
In 1946, he won 14 tournaments. In 48, he won 11 tournaments. I thought, he really is the best golfer in the world.
Although his triumphs brought him stature and respect, Hogan had not earned the affection that America felt for beloved sports idols like Babe Ruth. He didn't seek it either.
Ben didn't suffer fools, and if somebody asked him a stupid question, he would tell them it was a stupid question.
He would just glare, and it would make you shrink down to about that size and want to scurry out of the room like a dust ball.
He didn't like chit-chat. That's because Hogan was in a hurry to win.
Just as Hogan's life took a traumatic turn as a young boy, a few moments on a Texas highway in early 1949 changed his entire existence once more.
Aunt Valerie and Uncle Ben, they had just bought their dream home, and they were coming to Fort Worth.
On a foggy morning near El Paso, they're driving back to Fort Worth for a rest after the first couple of stops on the winter tour.
All of a sudden, I saw 4 lights coming right into me, and I jumped to the right.
They just get flattened by a Greyhound bus.
Valerie Hogan received only slight injuries, but the crash left Ben pinned beneath the dashboard of their car. For nearly 2 hours, he remained on the side of the road with massive injuries.
They were all grave from damaged spleens to a backbone that was put out of alignment, to say nothing of his crushed legs. It's a miracle the guy survived.
Blood clots formed in Hogan's legs and moved toward his heart, requiring radical surgery. Though it left him with lifelong pain and circulation difficulties, the procedure saved his life.
You cannot imagine the wires, the letters, the flowers. People really cared about him.
There was always something larger in Ben Hogan's life that he envisioned himself going towards. And suddenly all these people were going towards him. I think it genuinely stunned him.
And at that time, they told Uncle Ben and Aunt Valerie that there was a very good chance that he would never walk again.
Did you ever think you'd come back out of that?
Yes. My doctor said I wouldn't.
Well, he never listened to anybody that said no anyway, so.
Just getting out of bed was a big deal for him. He would walk laps around his bed while steadying himself with one arm.
And then when he got good enough with one, he could walk down the street. And then the next thing you know, he's out in the backyard swinging a golf club.
And it took me 11 months to get back where I could play at all.
That man had a drive that very few people have, and determined to get it back, and he did.
It's the National Open Golf Tournament at Marion in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. Bantam Ben on the comeback trail from a brush with death plays a cool and calculating game.
Until 2 weeks before, he wasn't certain he was actually going to play. He wasn't sure his legs would take him around the golf course more than twice.
He's cramping. His legs are draped with ace bandages from his toes to his thighs.
Every day after he left the course, he threw up. And every day he went out and he played well. But by the end of the thing, he was in a playoff.
On weary legs, Hogan played remarkably well in the playoff round. The man some thought would never walk again stood poised over one final putt.
He's got it. There he is. Ben's the new golf champion. Look at the crowd go up to get him.
This was really a moment that electrified Americans. He really became this mythological figure.
Hogan's mythical run was famously frozen in time by Life magazine. It is considered the greatest golf photo ever taken.
I think his comeback from the accident is the greatest comeback in the history of sports. He cheated death, survived it. I mean, I don't know anything you can compare with it.
He was playing as a figure of history after the accident, almost with the angels.
Now, Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer and several others can't get enough Ben Hogan in their print ads.
They made a big thing about it. If he sneezed, it was on the front page.
The legend of Ben Hogan only grew with the release of a Hollywood movie about his life called Follow the Sun.
The world premiere was right here in Fort Worth, and I was excited about being there, even after I saw the movie. I wish I'd worked on that movie. I might have found a cap that would fit Glenn Ford a little better.
Hogan was a larger-than-life figure in the film, but when production began, he had not yet orchestrated his storybook win at the U.S. Open.
They had to do a new ending. They had to do a Time magazine zoom. Hogan wins Open. They had to paste it on.
Hogan's hands were all over that movie because he wanted this mythology conveyed perfectly, that you could rise above any adversity and succeed. That was the American dream, and he was a symbol of it.
The United States Open champion of 1950, Ben Hogan. Let's hear it for him.
The car crash that had nearly ended Hogan's life instead gave birth to the man he'd always wanted to be, a true hero. But in the fall of 1950, another automobile accident at Wake Forest brought only heartache to Arnold Palmer. His friend Buddy Worsham drove off the road while returning from a party and was killed.
That probably affected me more than any other single thing in my life. as far as a hurt was concerned. We were close, and I mean close. And when he got killed, it was a disaster.
The very few times that I've seen Arnie cry, but there were tears. And Arnie came home on the train with Bobby's body. That was a hard loss for him.
The loneliness and all of that sort of reacted in me, and I decided that I needed to change the scene.
And he fled. He dropped out of school and he went to the Coast Guard. He felt that some kind of service would soften that tragedy for him.
I had learned how to conduct myself through my father, through the school days, and then the service just put the icing on the cake. If you excuse the expression, it helped make a man of me.
One of Dwight D. Eisenhower's first acts was to install a putting green at the White House.
My caddy says, long as you're still in the state, you're okay.
As men of privilege like John F. Kennedy were being elected to the Senate, Ike was encouraging all Americans to participate in his favorite peacetime activity. The genteel country club sport was now open to the public.
The sun was never brighter, the greens were never greener.
He was one of the big reasons that the game prospered so much in the 50s. And times were pretty good again, and then golf became a popular way of spending your time.
Dang, that's pretty nice that the guy in the head shed's playing golf, and maybe my wife will give me a pass because of this.
Hogan entered that year knowing he was running out of gas very quickly. Physically, it was just too demanding.
After winning his third U.S. Open in 1951, Hogan played sparingly the following year, leading many to believe that the 40-year-old legend's game was in decline. They were just a little wrong. At the 53 Masters, Hogan posted a tournament record 14 under par to take the title. With his assault on the U.S. Open at Oakmont, Hogan joined Willie Anderson and Bobby Jones as the only players at that point in history to hold 4 U.S. Open titles.
I like his great line that once he said, "There are 3 ways to beat somebody. You outwork them, you outthink them, and you intimidate them."
Hogan had now won the year's first 2 majors. The game's oldest championship, the British Open, had never been a consideration for him. Notoriously difficult conditions, including heavy winds, overgrown roughs, and having to play with the smaller British ball, had previously kept the venerable champion from making the journey. But with an eye toward history, the man who refused to fail decided to play in Carnoustie, Scotland.
It was a difficult week, to say the least. It was cold and rainy. He wore 3 sweaters there. I mean, have you ever tried playing in one sweater? He also came down with a high fever in the middle of it. You know, still, amazingly, he won.
Hogan, the clear crowd favorite, crafted a 68 on the final day to win the championship.
To win the British Open is something, of course, that you dream of when you're growing up as a kid.
Hogan returned to the U.S. as the first professional player to win 3 major championships in a single season. Upon his arrival in New York, Broadway's Great White Way had been officially renamed Hogan's Alley.
For this son of a blacksmith from very, very modest means to getting a ticker tape parade as the golfer of all things, that was quite amazing.
Hogan was asked about his secret, and he said it's in the dirt. He literally meant in the dirt, because he'd been in the dirt, and he had dug himself up from the dirt.
After 3 years, Arnold Palmer had finished his Coast Guard service in Cleveland, Ohio. The 24-year-old took a job selling paint while eagerly building his golf game.
Getting to Cleveland at that time introduced him to people who belonged to several prominent clubs around town, which in turn let him play a lot of golf at really great golf clubs, which in turn fueled his desire to come out of the gate as one of the top promising amateurs.
A tense gallery at the Country Club of Detroit sees Arnold Palmer tee off in the final round of the National Amateur.
The amateur was one of my big goals in my life. In 1954, I played with some of the best players in the world, and it scared me to death. My father and mother were there, and I don't suppose that I have ever worked any harder to do something.
And one of the most thrilling matches in the amateur's history goes to the son of a Pennsylvania golfing professional.
His father, the one guy he was really hoping to impress the most, said, "You did good, boy." You know, that's all he would give him.
The fact that he acknowledged that I had played pretty good was one of the great things in my life. Within the end of the year, I got married, I turned pro, and second day of January, I went to Miami, and I won about $750, and I thought, oh, man. And really got started doing what I wanted to do most in my life.
Arnold was a new kind of golfer, strong, athletic. The golfers of that era prior to that were not athletic figures. A lot of them were sort of pear-shaped. Porky Oliver was well named. They were not athletes. Arnold was an athlete.
By 1958, Palmer was a solid and successful tour player. Though he had not yet won a major, he had high hopes for the Masters in Augusta.
I had won a tournament on the winter tour and lost a playoff the week before the Masters. I went to Augusta and played the practice round with Dow Finsterwald, Ben Hogan, and Jackie Burke.
We won a few dollars from him, but Arnold did not have his best day.
I think I shot about 82, and Ben had a very fine round of about probably 71 or something like that.
Heading into Augusta, both Hogan's appearances and his results had been in decline. But he didn't hesitate to take a dim view of Palmer's game.
We went in the locker room, and Jackie and Ben Hogan went to another table. And I heard Hogan say, "Palmer, the guy we just played with," he said, "how did he get in the Masters?" Well, I heard him say it, and that really upset me.
Arnold fully believes to this day that Hogan was putting him on notice that, you know, he didn't belong there.
I hate to say this, but I don't think Ben thought Arnold was a very good golfer. Ben probably thought Arnold likes to take chances and he's fun to watch, but I don't think he's, you know, can give anybody a golf lesson.
That changed my perspective on Hogan. He was never friendly to me. It didn't mean that I didn't appreciate the fact that he was one of the great guys, great players of all time. I said guys, I didn't mean great guy. I think he was a great player. But as my father said to me, there's no reason why you can't be good and be nice.
Palmer proved why he had been invited to play at the Masters. While Ben Hogan finished a distant 14th, the greenskeeper's son shot a .284 to earn his first major championship.
In my mind right now, I can see him walking in a white shirt and dark slacks. I'll never forget that. Just maybe Arnold had arrived.
As the prosperous 50s were rounding to a close, Jack Nicklaus was discovering the joys of college life. And though golf was still his passion, it was not necessarily his career choice.
I was recruited to Ohio State for basketball, actually. But I didn't want to school. I just wanted to go to college. I wanted to be a college student. I grew up in Columbus. I wanted to go to Ohio State football games. My first quarter in college, it's the first time I'd never played a sport in my life. I gained 50 pounds. All the parties of all the weekends, I mean, I can't believe, I used to try to drink all the beer that was made in Columbus, Ohio, and I gave up on it because they started making more.
Oh, he was a fraternity guy. He ballooned up pretty good. But he was a good student, but he was a student of golf more than anything else.
I saw Jack when there were golf tournaments. And when I was at a golf tournament, Jack wasn't looking for a party. He was looking to focus on his game.
After my freshman year, I won the Trans-Mississippi Golf Tournament, which got me on the Walker Cup team. I said, I must be one of the 12 best players if I made a Walker Cup team.
Nicklaus's sterling play helped the U.S. win the Walker Cup in May of 1959. But the real test of his talent came that fall at the U.S. Amateur Championship. The 19-year-old was attempting to become the youngest winner in half a century.
And I got myself through to the finals to Charlie Coe. Now, Charlie Coe was a defending champion. I said, I don't care if he's defending champion, we're going to waltz right through this.
There were long hitters back then, probably people that could hit as far as Jack, but they couldn't play the game. And Jack could play the game.
And after about the second round, we're sitting there having dinner one night, and my dad said to me, he says, you know, Jack, remember out there on the 8th hole today when you did this? I said, do you think that was a, I said, time out, Dad. I said, you know, I love having you. If this is gonna work, you and I have got to be friends and father and son, not coaching while I'm doing it. I said, this is my thing. It was probably maybe the best thing that happened in our relationship.
Charlie didn't offer Jack a whole lot of advice. He offered him an awful lot of encouragement. He let Jackie do his thing.
We had a good tight match, a good tough match. Went to 18 all even. 18th at Broadmoor was a 3-wood off the tee, and they hit a little 8-iron in. The pin was the back left of the green. They hit it in there about 8 feet short of the hole. That putt was probably the beginning of knowing that you could do it when you had to.
I think it woke Jack up to the fact that he's going to be something too.
Maybe I'm a little better at this than I think I am. Maybe I ought to spend a little bit more time at it. I suppose I was a fairly confident kid. Cocky might have been a better word. That's about the first time. I was 19, 20 years old. I started thinking about a future in this game.
Arnold had been the new prototype. Here you had Jack suddenly come along. And it was one evolutionary rung higher.
Arnold Palmer is the Masters champion of 1960.
It was Palmer's second green jacket. His victory had captivated the public. But the question remained, could one of the most popular sports figures in the country win golf's ultimate test?
Hello, everyone. This is the practice green at Cherry Hills Country Club. On Thursday, 150 of the finest golfers in the world would start play in the 60th National Open Golf Tournament.
Record crowds were expected, and the field was loaded with contenders, including Ken Venturi, Julius Boros, Sam Snead, and Dow Finsterwald. But Arnold Palmer's splendid win at Augusta made him the favorite.
He was the people's favorite, and yet you had this marvelous conjunction of generations with Hogan and then this golden newcomer, Nicklaus.
But he was just this burly, misplaced offensive tackle. Everybody thought, well, he's either going to be good or he's not.
My dad said to me, hey, do you realize that you're 35-1 to win this tournament? And I want some of that. I said, I'll have 20 bucks of that.
I knew he was a good player, but he was an amateur. I was discounting the fact that he might win the tournament.
One man was not discounting Nicklaus, the Ohio State football coach, Woody Hayes.
Woody Hayes came up to Denver, and a friend of my dad walked around with him in a practice round. And he says, where's Paul Horning? Where's Kate Kessler? And he says, oh, they're not here. The newspapers didn't send them out. I said, what?
He called me, but I said, Woods, I don't have a Sunday paper. Well, my God, he says, we got to have this back here in Columbus. We got the world's greatest golfer. I said, Woods, back off. I says, I know all about Jackie. The paper just wouldn't send me out. Well, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
So Woody stayed the rest of the week and sent back reports to the newspapers.
He didn't know what golf was. That's the way it shook down. All of a sudden, Woody's discovered Jack Nicklaus, and he's discovered golf.
The spotlight also fell on the 47-year-old legend who had come to Cherry Hills looking for one more triumph. After a heartbreaking loss in 1955 against the unheralded Jack Fleck and another near miss against Billy Casper in 1959, Ben Hogan was still chasing a record 5th U.S. Open championship.
The chatter at the tournament was this was going to be his last appearance. I think everyone was aware of that.
He still obviously had a presence. He was a gray eminence at this point, though. Not a guy you'd pick unless you were sentimental.
Poor putting cost Hogan on opening day. He shot a mediocre 75, causing the press to wonder if he'd even make the cut. As Hogan's name came off the leaderboard, young Jack Nicklaus's went up. He finished the day 3 shots off the lead, while Arnold Palmer remained 4 shots back. But it would be long-hitting Mike Soucek, who posted the low score of 68 for the early tournament lead. Day 2 would go even better for him.
Dominating the first half of the tournament is Mike Soucek, former Duke football player. Soucek breaks the 36-hole record for the Open with a score of 135 for the first 2 rounds and appears to be unbeatable.
Soucek hit the ball, just murdered it, and also had a wonderful touch around the greens.
I played the first 36 holes with Mike that year. I thought he was going to win in a walk. He was playing so well.
Just as he was being counted out, Hogan's game took a stunning turn. He shot a second round 67, matching Soucek's low score for the day. Although he remained 7 shots off the lead, the sentimental favorite had rediscovered his game.
Ben was past the prime of his career, but not past the prime of the way he hit the golf ball.
Once he got into contention, you always had to say, he's got a chance, always.
The old master and the young amateur would be partnered on the final day for 36 holes of golf, known then as Open Saturday. The pair impressed the galleries, closing the morning round 3 shots off the lead. Playing behind them, meanwhile, Arnold Palmer spent most of the morning in the rough, with 5 bogeys to show for it. The people's favorite was 2 over par, 7 shots out of the lead, and nowhere to be found on the leaderboard.
Certainly I wasn't in a position to feel like I was going to win. Probably 14 players between myself and Soucek, but I wasn't in a position to think that I couldn't win either.
One of the reasons Arnold got off to a slow start was he was told that he could drive the first hole, and he tried to do it every time, and he put himself in the creek and took double bogeys.
When I went into the locker room for lunch before the last round, I ran into Bob Drum.
Bob Brown was one of my oldest friends, and we covered thousands of golf tournaments together. And he's been covering Arnold since he was the West Penn amateur champion. And Arnold loved Drum.
He was an interesting character for Arnold, kind of a crusty father figure. He was always sort of needling Arnold.
In those days, the press could go into the locker room and hang out with the guys, and Arnold came walking by.
And I said, Bob, you know, I've really played good and nothing's happened. You think if I shot 65?
That'll give me 280. Doesn't 280 win the Open?
He looked at me sarcastically as he could, and he said, 65 wouldn't do anything for you.
Drum said, get out of here, boy. Go make your usual 7 birdies and 7 bogeys and don't bother me anymore.
I was disappointed. Here I'm looking for that encouragement, and I get just the opposite. I never finished my lunch. I got up and I walked to the practice tee, hit a couple drives, and heard my name called to the first tee.
With the final round of the U.S. Open looming, Arnold Palmer decided to play it the only way he knew how.
With the U.S. Open presumably on the line, Arnie, with this showmanship he had that was so incredible, takes out the driver on 1 and is going to try to drive the green. He's going for it. Arnie's going for it.
Somebody comes in and says Arnold drove the first green and 2-putter for birdie. We said, oh, well, good, that's great.
He had a little revenge to bring on that hole, and still, that was a marvelous shot.
Somebody else comes in and says, Arnold chipped in for a birdie on 2. I said, really? Well, good luck. He might finish 8th. Then he birdies the 3rd hole. And Drum said, would you care to join me on the golf course?
Here comes Bob Drum, and of course, when I looked up, I gave him sort of a frown, and I said, what are you doing here?
Then out of the blue comes a thunderbolt. The man from the Pennsylvania Steel Regions ties the tournament record for 9 holes with a 30, scoring birdies on 6 of the first 7 holes.
It was a little bit like a Mack truck coming up your back, and players, when they heard the roar behind them, their knees started to buckle a little bit because they knew Arnold was doing his magic.
At the time, he's still not leading the golf tournament. Soucek's still leading by 3 strokes or something.
After dominating the tournament for 3 rounds, Mike Soucek would finally succumb to the pressure of the moment.
Instead of being aggressive, he got protective. You don't think of making birdie just if I can make par. Well, you never thought that all week.
Soucek lost it on the front 9 of the afternoon round. He just kind of dribbled it away. All of a sudden, it was a whole new golf tournament.
With only the back 9 left to play at Cherry Hills, there were still 10 men in position to win. It was to be one of the tightest U.S. Open finishes in history.
I didn't really realize how many people there were on that back 9 could have won that tournament.
Everybody had a chance there.
Things were exploding all around you. The leaderboard constantly changing.
But it was the improbable amateur who would emerge from the pack to take sole possession of the lead at the U.S. Open for the first time in his life.
When we got to the 12th hole, I never forget, I remember looking at the leaderboard. I was leading by 1 at 20 years old. I was nervous, obviously, and Hogan was still right there.
By the time you got to the 13th hole, it had really come down to Arnold, Ben, and Jack.
Approaching 13, as Hogan looked on, his young partner Nicklaus would suffer a moment's indecision that would cost him.
And I ran the first putt by the hole. I wasn't 20 inches. And there was an old ball mark there. And I mean, it was a pretty good one. And I'm, again, inexperienced, nervous kid. I went ahead and putted this ball from 20 inches and missed it over this ball mark. I mean, I shouldn't have done that in 100 years. And of course you can fix a ball mark. Why wouldn't you fix a ball mark? I mean, it's a tap in. Oh, well.
That was a real blow to Jack's chances. Not a fatal one. He still had his chances after that, but that really derailed him.
Nicklaus followed his bogey on 13 with another on 14. He had lost his lead, but hovered 1 stroke back.
By the time they got to the 16th hole, Hogan and Palmer tied. You know, Hogan's hitting 34 straight greens. 80-year-old Ben Hogan may win the Open. Arnold was behind him, and Arnold was hot, and Arnold had birdied all those holes. Ben thought, if I want to win or tie, I need to finish birdie par.
Approaching the 17th tee, eyeing another shot at history, Hogan would rely on his superior shot-making ability to finally secure his 5th Open title.
I followed him the whole tournament, and I think, well, he's going to do what he always does. You know, he's so precise, and you never think of him making mistakes much on the golf course. I mean, he just didn't.
He was hitting the ball so perfectly. He decided to go for the birdie there on 17.
Hogan, it's a beautiful drive, beautiful second shot, par 5 hole, got a west of the green.
And he hit from where I was standing and was pretty close to him. Looked like it was the perfect shot, but it just came up about a yard short.
And it trickled down the hill into the water. The gallery didn't say anything for 25 or 30 seconds, and Hogan stood there and stared at it.
In that situation, and tied for the lead, Ben Hogan hits the ball in the water. Are you kidding?
I didn't miss it. I just didn't hit it far enough. It hit just short of the green, bounced on the green, and I had a lie that I could hit with a driver for my 3rd shot there. And I put so much spin on it, I just sucked it right back in the water.
I was a great predictor, though. I said, I'll guarantee you one thing, he will be over the water. About that time, he's in the water.
It was so unexpected. And, I mean, anybody could do it, but you don't expect Hogan to do that.
Cherry Hills is the one time that he did the wrong thing. Ben just walked up and shook his head and took off his shoe and rolled up his pants and waded into the water and hit it out. And then missed the putt coming back for bogey. In any case, it was over. He knew when that ball went in the water, he'd probably lost the Open.
I find myself waking up at night thinking of that shot right today. And there isn't a month that goes by that doesn't cut my guts out.
Hogan had nothing left to give at Cherry Hills. He took a 7 on the final hole and would finish the tournament 9th. But his partner still had a chance for the championship, although he didn't approach it that way.
The 18th hole, I thought the tournament was over. And I remember Joe Dye, who was an executive director of the USGA then, Joe was picking up cigarette butts and papers and everything else. And I said, what is he doing?
But Nicklaus is only a shot behind and hit it on the green on 18, and he went for it.
And I chipped and missed the putt. If I make that putt and he misses, we tie. I'm serious, oh my gosh, that's an experience. Not knowing where you are, that's a 20-year-old kid.
I played the 17th in par and hit my 2 shots at 18, and I hooked a 4-iron to the left side of the green in the rough. And I chipped it up about like this. And I thought that this putt that I had for par was the putt that I needed to win the tournament. When I made it, my reaction was that I had won.
Palmer's 65 tied the U.S. Open final round record. But his victory was not in the books yet.
We laughed about it in the press room. They said, you know, Arnold's getting the trophy. There's still some guys on the golf course. It was a real long shot that anybody could still do it, but Don Cherry, an amateur, had 9 holes left to play. Could have shot 2 under and won.
But Arnold won it. He won it fair and square.
I saw Arnold after the round in the locker room and said, you did it again, you SOB.
And the next morning, our oldest daughter came tearing in the bedroom with the paper and said, Uncle Arnie won the Open. And I said, oh, Kit, don't be silly, he did not win it. And she says, well, here, read it.
Oh, I was so excited. I thought of my family and my father. He was still his conservative self. He says something like, congratulations, boy, that's great playing. I am very sentimental, and but I found later in life that my father was too.
Golf was better off that Arnold won. Probably it did more for golf history and the popularity of the game because the new king was here.
Hogan's last best chance to capture the U.S. Open record was now gone. The man who had spent his life building a precise, sure-handed game could rely on it no more. The Ben Hogan era had ended, and no one knew that more than the man himself.
Considering everything he went through, from the beginning of his dad through the wreck, I think that he finally had laid all those demons to rest. He'd overcome difficulties, and now, well, he liked to play gin.
Jack Nicklaus finished second with a final score of 282, a new U.S. Open record for an amateur. Though the 20-year-old had lacked clarity at times on the course, his playing partner saw the future very clearly.
Hogan said the truest thing of all after the tournament in the locker room, and he said it to me, I'm proud to say. He said, "Don't feel sorry for me. I've lost God tournaments before."
He says, I played with a kid today, if he'd have known how to win, he'd have won by 10 shots. And that was a very nice compliment. As time went on and I started thinking about what I had given away, sure. I mean, I kid Arnold all the time. I said, Arnold, if I had shot 39 last time, nobody had ever heard of you. You know, we go through all that. If you're young and you get beat, it teaches you a lesson and you learn from things.
Three men of three different pasts in three distinctly different stages of life had played a round of golf for the ages. Hogan, Palmer, and Nicklaus left Cherry Hills as changed men, and the history of golf changed with them.
It had never happened before, and it hadn't happened since, and probably never will happen again. And I was so lucky to have been with those three guys, especially that Saturday afternoon in Denver.
I defy you to point out a game where you see three practitioners who defined the game the way each of them did in very distinctly different ways. It became the vehicle that made them millionaires, but at the end of the day, it was still a game that they were in love with as children and conquered as men.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports.